This is Sarah Broninger of the New Horizons Academy with a video on greatest common factor, least common multiple. This is the first of two videos, and this video explains the concepts. Greatest common factor, least common multiple. These are two different math processes, but the steps that you take to solve them are similar. Similar enough that students get them confused, and for this reason I teach it side by side so that you can see the differences and similarities as we go. The first video, this video, I'm just going to show you what these processes mean. The second video, I'm going to show you how to do greatest common factor, how to do least common multiple, and I'm going to do problems side by side so that you can compare them to each other. So the first words I'm going to go over are factors and multiples. If you ask for what a factor is, people will usually say something multiplied by something, which isn't incorrect. But there's part of the definition missing. You have to say what you're talking about. A factor of 20 is not the same as a factor of 25 or a factor of 28. You have to say what you're talking about. So I would define it as this. You have a number. Anything that can be multiplied to get that number is a factor of that number. So factors of 20 would be 1 and 20, 1 times 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Multiples of 20 means you have a number, in this case 20, and you get a bunch of them. So you have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So these are bunches of 20s, and these are ways that you can make 20. A factor are the ingredients to make something. A multiple is when you have a bunch of that something, whatever you're talking about. All right, now the rest of these words. Greatest means biggest. Least means smallest. Common means they have something in common, that's something they both have. Two brothers have parents in common. Well, we're looking for the factors that these two numbers have in common. The biggest factor that these two numbers have in common. We're looking for the multiple that these same two numbers have in common. The smallest multiple they have in common. All right, so all of the factors of 80 would be 1 times 80, 2 times 40, 4 times 20, 5 times 16, can't do 6, can't do 7, 8 times 10. The factors of 120 is 1 times 120, 2 times 60, 3 times 40, 4 times 30, 5 times 24, 6 times 20, 8 times 15, what else can I do? 9, 10, that's not a 10, 10 times 12. Okay. The factors they have in common, 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, 10, 20, 40. What's the biggest factor they have in common? 40. So the greatest common factor, the biggest factor they have in common is 40. Why would you care? The simplest way to use this, and it's not the only way, is when you're looking for what can I divide these both by. I can divide them both by 40. And I get 2/3. Okay, least common multiple. This means I'm trying to find a multiple of 80 and a multiple of 120, and the smallest I can find. So that would be 80, 160, 240, 320, 400, 480, 560, etc. 120, 240, 360, 480. I've already found some here, right? The smallest multiple they have in common is 240. This could be used for something like rotating schedules that meet up. You have a leave every 80 days, someone else is free every 120 days. When will we meet again? In 240 days. This satellite takes 80 days to orbit the planet. This satellite takes 120 days to orbit the planet. When will they next be within some proximity of each other? In 240 days. That is what finding the least common multiple means, and finding the greatest common factor means. There are many uses for this, but these are the simplest uses I can give in this first video. Last part of this video is one of the tools that you will use to find both the greatest common factor and the least common multiple is to be able to take a number and write it as a product of prime numbers. So I'm going to go over what that means. As means in this way. I could write 80 as words. I could write 80 as digits. I could write 80 in binary, but I want to write it as a product of prime numbers. Product means multiplication. Multiplication of the prime numbers that make 80. So that would be this. 2 times 40, 2 times 20, 2 times 10, 2 times 5. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 equals 80. This is a sentence of multiplication of prime numbers. It is a product of prime numbers, and that is how I am writing 80. 80 as a product of prime numbers. And just to prove it, in case this part is new to you, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 5 is 80. Okay, you will need to be able to write a number as a product of prime numbers in order to do the next video. So if this is new to you, practice this first.